Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're a few minutes late, so we're going to get started. His Excellency, Mr. Alemayo Tegenu, Minister of Water and Energy of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, distinguished delegates from various ministries of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia, Dr. Carlos Lopez, Under Secretary General, Executive Secretary of the Economic Commission for Africa, Mr. Rajendra Pachauri, Chair of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, co-chairs of the IPCC Working Group 3, lead authors, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to Addis Ababa and to the Economic Commission of Africa. At ECA and the African Climate Policy Center, we're very proud of our association with the IPCC, and particularly proud that the IPCC has chosen the city of Addis and the ECA to host the 4th Lead Authors Meeting of Working Group 3. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to offer 2 reasons why this meeting is very important to us. The first reason is related to science, which tells us that climate variability and change with associated uncertainty and unpredictable impacts on social and ecological systems is today an unavoidable reality. The IPCC allows us the intellectual space to use science and research to ask the why, when, where, and how questions related to climate change and its impacts. It provides a space where climate change research is reconfigured into an applied science, where scientific excellence and real lives and livelihoods converge. The IPCC provides a unique communicative space for scientific rigor and excellence, peer engagement, an empirical melting pot, a capacity building tool, and excellence, and an opportunity to speak truth to power. Your Excellency, distinguished delegates, Chair of the IPCC, co-chairs, and lead authors, one of the reasons why we're all here today is because of the recognition that the principal ammunition for collective action to combat climate change is appropriate, consumable, and deployable knowledge. At ECA, including through the African Climate Policy Center, we're equally strong in our resolve that Africa's variable and changing climate can only be addressed by strong science and knowledge as critical levers that will enable the continent to spring towards a climate-resilient development pathway. The CleanDev program, which is supported by 3 critical institutions, the African Union Commission, the African Development Bank, and the Economic Commission for Africa, endorsed at the highest political level, recognizes that lack of appropriate climate information services will derail development outcomes and hamper prospects for policy mainstreaming. The ACPC, the knowledge hub of the CleanDev program, is mandated to act as a policy wing through the generation of high-impact research that would help to establish the policy basis for strategic investment in climate change-related opportunities in key sectors. The second reason why this meeting is important to us is the symbolism that is attached to both the choice of the venue and the fact that you will be discussing one of the main response strategies, mitigation. Let us contemplate together for a minute Africa's per capita emissions on average are less than 1/6 of those of industrialized nations. Yet in spite of these low contribution, Ethiopia is pursuing a low carbon growth policy and showing the rest of the world that hydroelectric power has considerable role to play in the world's energy supply to fuel its much needed economic growth. Ethiopia is also at critical crossroads where, faced with population growth and potential food insecurity, it is pursuing plans to develop its considerable hydropower and irrigation potential to reduce poverty and to usher in social justice. The opportunity for looking at mitigation as a response option and doing so in an African context where energy insecurity is so stark will make the power of this symbolism even starker, given that mitigation options elsewhere will have both positive and negative implications for Africa. Positive in terms of new technologies and negative in terms of commodity price changes arising from biofuel policies. It is undeniable that there will be winners and losers, whatever the response strategy adopted. Developing countries such as Ethiopia do not want to be denied the right to development. The right to development will constitute the main trump card for developing countries. And their ability to use this trump card will depend on the shared space that developed and developing countries are prepared to negotiate as part of an overall burden sharing mechanism that will blunt the notion of winners and losers and power asymmetries so that we can take collective responsibility for the one planet that we have and the only lasting legacy that we can hand over to future generations. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to end by thanking the IPCC TSU for the rich collaboration with ECA. I would like to also thank the Ethiopian government for their positive endorsement of this meeting since it was first announced. And last but not least, I would like to thank my colleagues at ACPC and within the wider Commission for their hard work in making this meeting a reality. Thank you very much, and I wish you a fruitful and productive meeting. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, as part of the opening remarks, I would like to now invite Mr. Dr. Yuva Sokona, the co-chair of the IPCC Working Group 3. Yuva.
His Excellency Ato Alemayehu Tejenu, Minister of Water and Energy of Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, His Excellency Dr. Carlos Lopez, UN Under Secretary General and Executive Secretary of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, Dr. Rajendra Pachauri, Chair of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and friends, good morning. As a co-chair of IPCC Working Group 3, it is my privilege and pleasure to welcome you to one of my hometowns in Africa, New Flower, known as Addis Ababa, the headquarters of Africa's two premier institutions, the Africa Union Commission and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. I would be remiss if I failed to acknowledge our deep appreciation to the government of the Democratic Republic of Ethiopia and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa for hosting this very important meeting. Addis is certainly the best place to initiate the last round of our contribution to the 5th assessment report of the IPCC. In this welcome remark, allow me to briefly present some elements we should keep in mind on this last but not least round of our journey as I will call cartographers in an imperfect world. Let me first reiterate that for our assessment to be robust and to serve its purpose, it should be guided by 3 key principles: comprehensiveness, objectivity, and transparency. Being a cartographer in an imperfect world implies that we must consider the entire set of feasible options available to mitigate climate change. In this effort, we should embrace all perspectives, including research results for which there are sound information, scientific and technical consensus, as well as divergent viewpoints, and even those perspectives that may be deemed as desperate. You may find this challenging, but the reality we are confronted with on this planet is not any less so. We have diverse physical environments, geographical and economic situations, sociocultural and political perspectives, Very often, we have the natural tendency of capturing at the global level what appear at first glance to become trends, but in actually ignore the diversity of realities that are of critical importance to millions of lives. We must deliver a comprehensive, objective, and balanced perspective, paying a special care to being policy relevant without being policy prescriptive. We must therefore ask ourselves, how do we make the Fifth Assessment Report equally relevant for all regions of the world and for all countries, regardless of their level of development? Exploring the whole solution space also means that the Working Group 3 contribution to the Fifth Assessment Report should provide relevant insights for low-income and least developed countries in the world. Developing countries have the opportunity to avoid many of the problems that industrialized countries and emerging economies have experienced in their development process with regard to greenhouse gas emissions. The information and options available for developing countries are very different for those for industrialized countries. In many developing countries, indicators such as GDP capture not all economic activities. For example, many people in least developed countries do not buy insurance. They often would not be able to afford it. Instead, their network of family and friends serve as insurance system. A wide array of development paths remain open to these countries, although it is difficult to capture the reality and complexity of each of these individual conditions in our global analysis. Comprehensiveness principle impels us to thoroughly explore within our means all relevant situations, issues, and options. In the Fifth Assessment Report, we have to resolve various challenges, including how to address, along with the perfect, the imperfect. Climate change mitigation research has, for a long time, focused on models of the world that assume perfect information, perfect foresight, no transaction costs, institutional certainty, and the alignment of motives and incentives toward addressing climate change. The Fifth Assessment Report can, for the first time, draw on the comprehensive body of literature on second-best setting in which many of these assumptions are relaxed. For example, we may not possess the entire portfolio of technologies available for mitigation. What happens if we do not have carbon capture storage technologies available for mitigation due to lack of public acceptance? What happens if nuclear options are not available? Similarly, is it realistic to assume that all countries in the world will collaborate and integrate in a global carbon market now or even later on this process? Are the goals defined by the UNFCCC process still achievable under such conditions? If so, how would it affect mitigation costs? Our contribution to the Fifth Assessment Report will also extend the conventional framing of risks and uncertainties by adding a regulatory dimension. The socioeconomic system has uncertainties and many conflicting motives and incentives. Certain types of policies have different levels of regulatory risk and uncertainty involved, which need to be brought to the attention of policymakers. Chapter 2 of our report addresses this very important issue of policymaking under risk and uncertainty. As a cartographer in an imperfect world, exploring the entire solution space means considering the policy instrument available at each institutional level, for example, at local, regional, and international levels. The Fifth Assessment Report devotes a chapter to each of these levels and addresses the interactions between them. Additionally, there is a chapter devoted to human settlements with a focus on cities. Having received almost 20,000 comments by nearly 500 individuals, we expect a lot of useful input to improve the individual chapters as well as the summary documents. We also hope to fill as many missing gaps as possible on the map that we want to deliver to policymakers and the wider public to steer us towards a low carbon and more sustainable future. Please remember, however, that we only have a couple of months left before the final report is due. So, thanks to all of you for coming and devoting your time to this important process. I look forward to a very productive meeting, and I do hope, dear colleagues, that you will take time to visit this beautiful city of Addis Ababa. Thank you for your attention.